The release of Fortnite Season 4 has been absolutely amazing, and for once, it finally seems like we're getting more answers than questions. The cinematic trailer for this season's story begins by showing us the solar eclipse. This is what we were building up to in the last season's story, and the reason it needed to happen in the first place was because of Kado Thorne. Kado Thorne is a criminal genius, a skilled time traveler, and an undercover vampire, which means that he is weak to sunlight, and the solar eclipse allowed him to arrive safely onto the island. But what is he doing here? Well, at the moment, he's collecting all of the island's most valuable artifacts by traveling across time, coming back to the island through a time machine, and using the artifacts to fund his expensive properties, which are actually all of the new POIs on the island with the new vault mechanics, which are really fun. So we've covered who exactly this wealthy vampire is, but I believe he has another identity, being the main villain of Fortnite Chapter 4. The Shapeless Man was a character only ever name-dropped back in Season 1. The Rift Warden told us many things about him, and although it seemed like he had to be either Geno or the Nothing, after taking a visit back to all that dialogue, my perspective on this has changed entirely. The first line that we got mentioning this Shapeless Man was when we aligned the island's position with panels that showed phases of the moon. After doing this kind of random task for the Rift Warden, he tells us that the Shapeless Man is watching us, and he has a dark purpose, and the rift gate that we were building for him at the time needed to be finished if we wanted to avoid terrible consequences. Immediately, I see a few things here that really need to be pointed out. First of all, the moon phases seen in the quest line up with the logo in Kado's mansion. Then he says the man is shapeless, which is interesting because we know Kado can transform his shape, and Fortnite describes him as a two-faced traveler, but that's not all. In the next set of dialogue, we hear more about the terrible consequences that are soon to come if the rift gate fails. To me, it makes a lot of sense that Kado Thorne would yearn for a rift gate. From the trailer, we know that he has the ability to travel time, but not the ability to travel across realities, because all the stuff he has is from our island's past, which isn't all that useful. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure the mechanics of this time machine are useful and very significant, I just don't know if it's really enough to satisfy Kado Thorne. Now, speaking of that scene that shows his time machine, there's something here that really catches my eye and convinces me of this connection, so if you want to find out exactly what that is, subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the video so far.
Each night, I dream of stars, swallowed in darkness, and the Shapeless Man, waiting. I did not dream of him for centuries. Your refined kinetic ore returned him to me.
Now, first of all, in this trailer, we see a star being swallowed in darkness, just like Stellan says. The eclipse, or the star in darkness, is what allows Kado to arrive to the island, and the dialogue also says the Shapeless Man is connected to the island's kinetic ore. Now, that's very interesting considering the sword we see on Kado's back, which is very similar to the design of Season 2's kinetic blade. Not only that, but on his wall we can see the cube painting, and the cubes are known for having a great connection to darkness and the kinetic ore as well, so it's all starting to come together piece by piece until it gets a little confusing.
He always said he imagined a world of perfect order. There is no room in a world like that for the likes of us.
Now, at first, after hearing this line, everyone was believing that Geno was the Shapeless Man. He had to be. But this is 95% a line that is either meant to be super obvious towards Geno, or it's meant to throw you off. Let's take another deeper look into this line, and specifically the first part. He always imagined a world of perfect order. If you weren't already aware, the logo of Kado Thorne's faction looks almost identical to that of a group known as the Order of the Waning Moon, possibly referencing this perfect order that arises when the eclipse happens and Kado Thorne is brought to the island. Not only that, but those who are heisting from Kado Thorne are led by the character Nolan Chance. He might be ugly as shit, but his loading screen has some interesting information. Pick the right crew and brace for chaos. Now, chaos is the opposite of order, so that's just another interesting thing to point out. The final line that we hear in reference to this Shapeless Man is that in his world of perfect order, there is no room for the likes of us. To me, this makes perfect sense with the story of Kado Thorne. We know that the Jungle Ancients awaited his arrival and predicted the eclipse, and when it came, they just vanished. From what the trailer shows, Kado Thorne intentionally steals valuable objects. Not only can he use them for wealth, but he can also draw people in to kill. When the heist team pulls up to take the Oro skull, he is there immediately awaiting them, and if he wants blood, there is definitely no room in a world like that for the likes of us, just like Stellan says. All of this comes together in a pretty convincing sense, giving the conclusion that Kado Thorne is indeed the Shapeless Man. If you agree and you believe that it's not the Nothing or Geno, drop a comment, like, or sub down below, join the Theory Discord in the description, and enjoy Season 4!